Well, hey there, Buttercups. I know from the episodes you guys have received so far, they've been kind of lighthearted and fun, and today's episode isn't that. Now, that's not to say this is going to be a series of episodes. This episode happens to fall on a day that, one anniversary, if you will. This is my version of a trigger warning, okay? If you have experienced pregnancy loss in any form or fashion, but especially due to ectopic pregnancy, and you still are bothered by it or you can't hear it, go ahead and just hit the pause button, exit out, and find something else to listen to until you're ready. Okay? And that goes for everybody, not just ectopic pregnancy sufferers. Any kind of loss. I really do understand not being able to listen to this. So, again, this is a trigger warning, and please don't put yourself in a not so great place just to be able to listen, okay, guys? So, like I said in the trigger warning slash intro, ectopic pregnancies, the topic of the day. And I'll explain why I chose it, especially for this episode. But I just kind of want to get through some facts about it, like medical, actual findable facts. So I did go to reproductivefacts.org. It's an American Society for Reproductive Medicine from them. And it's a way to explain what it is and the symptoms. So, an ectopic pregnancy is any pregnancy that grows outside of the uterus or the womb. In a normal pregnancy, the egg meets the sperm, then is fertilized in the fallopian tube, and the embryo, which is the fertilized egg, travels through the tube to the uterus. And then once there, the embryo plants and grows into a baby. I'm not trying to test anybody's intelligence. I'm just trying to explain so we all have a really good idea. When an embryo starts attaching and begins to slowly grow anywhere outside of the uterus, it's called an ectopic pregnancy. And it's not healthy. If it continues to grow, it can endanger the life of the pregnant woman. Early detection and treatment of this are extremely important, which it's very true. They say the most common place for this to occur is in a fallopian tube. It's also possible, but more rare, to find it in the ovary, cervix, or somewhere else in the abdomen. So we know what it is, what causes it. Now, there's no obvious risk factors. And she might be more likely, though, to have an ectopic pregnancy if there was surgery in the pelvis or abdomen, your belly, if you had a sexually transmitted infection, had endometriosis, which is a condition where the tissue that lines your uterus grows in other places, you smoke cigarettes, you've had fertility treatment in the past, had a previous ectopic pregnancy, became pregnant with an IUD in place. So those are just some of the ones they found. Um, and in order for them to diagnose this, there's a combination of blood tests and ultrasound scans that can help them. A blood pregnancy test measures how much of the pregnancy hormone, or HCG, is in the blood, and it's normally measured more than once to see if it's rising normally. And then they do ultrasounds of the lower abdomen to show whether the pregnancy is inside or outside the uterus. And as soon as you know, you need to go to the doctor. Now, there are 4 ways that you can deal with this or be treated for this. So, if you know, there are several medicines. There's a medicine that you can take that stops it from continuing to develop. You do get it by injection by a medical professional, and you should avoid alcohol, folic acid, and medicines like ibuprofen to make sure it does work correctly. There are side effects, such as nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, and mouth sores. If you have severe abdominal pain or fainting after treatment, call the doctor for reevaluation ASAP. They'll repeat the ACG levels every few days to make sure that it's responding, and when it drops to zero, it should have worked. Now, almost 90% of ectopic pregnancies can be successfully treated with methotrexate if detected early enough. The rest of the other ways require surgery. So that's if you detect it early. So there's also laparoscopy. I know I said that word. I'm sorry, guys. It's the most common surgery for this. It is called a minimally invasive surgery because the doctor makes a very small incision, or a set of them, in your lower abdomen. A small telescope attached to a camera is placed in one incision so the doctor can look for this. And they remove it with small instruments. And they might have to remove a fallopian tube, but they might not. So there are some cases where there's a large amount of internal bleeding or there's too much scar tissue to be able to remove the ectopic pregnancy using the laparoscopy. So they use a larger abdominal incision called a laparotomy to remove it. So it just depends on how bad it is, how early on you catch it. And in some cases, a very early ectopic pregnancy will go away without treatment, even before it's confirmed or diagnosed. But if you're at risk, you really, really should go get checked if you find you're pregnant. Just to be on the safe side. Now, even with the appropriate treatment and observation, it could be life-threatening. If you have pelvic, abdominal, or shoulder pain or fainting, since any of these symptoms can be internal bleeding, you need to go to the doctor. Go to the hospital. And if a fallopian tube ruptures, emergency surgery will happen. Trust me. Now, to those people who maybe have suffered this, or can you conceive after this type of pregnancy? And you can. And they do think you should consider seeking a fertility specialist care / doctor early in the process of planning. It's sometimes difficult to get pregnant after this type of thing, but you could possibly have another ectopic pregnancy, or you could have a healthy pregnancy. The fact is that women have gone on after this type of situation to have healthy babies. So either way you look at it, if you really want a baby, or to reproduce after this, just do a lot of planning and have a very, very nice doctor and people who will help you. And you may or may not, depending on how everything goes, be able to reproduce. You might be wondering why this episode is even being included. And August 13th will be the 3-year anniversary of my own experience with this. And I hope it's as therapeutic in my head as I think it will be to share this with everybody. And if if I have a little difficulty in some of this, please pardon that. It was a very, very traumatic episode. So, just as a background, it's July of 2022, and I have just recently found out that I was pregnant. And when I tell you that I paced up and down my hallway with a four-letter word up and down because it just didn't seem real. It felt crazy that I could have a positive pregnancy test. I threw the test at my ex, who was beyond thrilled. And so I began doing the things I needed to do shortly after that. Because if I was pregnant, I couldn't send it back. It was, staying, as far as I knew, and I was gonna have to accept it. Well, y'all, I had finally accepted it when this all went down. And so it was a perfectly nice Saturday afternoon. It was in August 13th. And I was just sitting at the house watching TV. My mom was napping. The ex was at his mom's house when I started getting pains. I tried to find out if they were worthy of going to a doctor or an ER, which of course I didn't have a doctor because, finding an OBGYN is incredibly hard. But I didn't have a doctor, and so my only course of action would have been to go to the ER. And I did not want to go to the ER unless I absolutely had to. Well, that being said, I eventually went and politely woke my mother up and asked her if she could drive me to the ER. We went to the ER, X met us there, and I want to say that I looked terrible. I was sweating profusely. I was in absolute agony, sharp pains going through my abdomen, and just apparently I was pale. I mean, I'm not exactly tan, but I was more pale than usual. So it didn't take them long to get me back in a room, which is a shocker to yourself if you've ever had to experience the ER. Well, that being said, that was probably 4 or 5 in the afternoon. As the evening wore on, they were doing tests, trying to figure out what was going on, and I had to use the restroom. And I'm only saying this because it's kind of important. I've never fainted in my life besides this time, guys. Never. I lock the bathroom door wherever I go, so when I went in, I locked it. Shouldn't have done that. Well, I got done doing what I had to do, and I couldn't. I guess I fainted. Somehow they opened the door. I don't remember all that. I'll be very honest with you. And I was on the floor looking up at about 6 hospital staff looking at me worriedly. Well, they helped me up, get me settled, and not long after that, they're discussing something. I'm just laying there, probably just out of my mind. By about 11 p.m., they had called in someone who wasn't supposed to be working, and she made the decision based on everything and apparently the approval and consent on our end, my end, that we were going to run surgery. I remember them taking off my necklace and taking my glasses, and I remember going into surgery, and that's about it, guys. Legit. That was a Saturday night into Sunday morning, I'm assuming. Next thing I know, it's Monday morning, probably around 10, 11 a.m., something like that. And I'm starting to kind of wake up, but I can't breathe on my own. I can't breathe on my own because they put a very long tube in my mouth to breathe for me. So, if anybody knows anything about being anxious, they had to tell me to calm down and become less anxious. It took me about 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes before they could take it out once I was waking up. Cuz I was freaking out. And so I woke up. They're kind of telling me what happened. My mom had called my job to let them know this is what happened, and I definitely wouldn't be in. um, and from there, they moved me to where you go after you have baby, which in that moment was a little hard, which was hard. But I'll be honest, I didn't. I mean, I was gonna cry regardless because the amount of pain I was in was incredible. And I need you guys to understand that I am not a person who smokes cigarettes. I don't do any kind of drug. I barely drink. And I barely took medicine then. I would take sinus medicine, but I never took anything heavy. Does that make sense? So I was on heavy painkillers, obviously, and different medicines and several IVs. And let me just say, I am terrified of needles. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. I was terrified of them before this. My medical anxiety has risen 5,000% at the very least since this whole episode. So I'm in there, and I'm going to tell you guys, I was in a bed from late Saturday, probably early Sunday, to probably that following Wednesday. Because I was in agony. They needed me to walk, but I couldn't do it. I was terrified. Now, I can't imagine having to learn to rewalk because just going that many days and just knowing that the amount of pain I was in and then putting my feet on the floor and adding pressure, whew, it was not something I was excited about, I swear. Um, but eventually I did walk, and I'm tell you now, my appetite was gone, gone, gone. I couldn't eat. And I swear to you, they lifted a tray one day and I smelled corn. I told my mother, I was like, get that out of here now. And bless my mother's heart, she did. Later on, she told me she would have eaten it, but in that moment, I was not having it. Just saying. And then I would start. If I was able to eat, I would have, say, a hamburger. I'd take a bite, and I'd really want it, and then a doctor would come in, talk to me for a few minutes, 5, whatever, and I'd take 2 bites of that burger and put it down. I couldn't eat. So, yeah, that first stint was agonizing, guys. Agonizing. And at one point, they were, if you've ever been in a hospital for any amount of time, they're always checking your blood pressure or taking your blood. In my case, they're taking blood a lot to check it a lot. And they had to give me a lot of blood, from my understanding, that I lost a lot of blood. And so I don't know if anybody else has these, and they probably do. But I have what you call rolling veins. My veins hate needles as much as I do. And I say that because they would check it once and it'd be fine, and then they'd check it again and they'd move. Because they were like, no, we're not into this. Same veins, same. Well, they pretty much couldn't get anything very well anywhere else. And one particular phlebotomist, I believe she was, decided that she was going to try my hands. I remembered this woman, and she was burned in my mind after this because she went, put a needle in the middle of the side of my left index finger and put it there. And I cried. Not that that was unusual, but I couldn't do anything. And when I absolutely tell you that if I could have, I couldn't do anything else. It was terrible. Well, that first stint, they let me go home. They said, "Go, you're good. Go home." We went home Thursday. Getting in the truck on the way home, going through everything. Go get the medicine or whatever, and I I am very uncomfortable. But we get home. I get in my chair. We're good. And a couple days, not even 2 days later, guys. Not even 2 days later. Was it 2 days? It was Friday. It was Saturday. We end up back in the ER on Saturday because I had some masses of fluid form where they did the, incision. It was like a C-section incision they did. And I they would just overflow, and it was like I was peeing myself, for lack of a better term. But it was impossible to do that 3 times in an hour and a half. So we go to the ER. They hold us overnight. They do x-rays, all that stuff. And we come back at 6 a.m. Sunday morning, me and mom. And I get my pain meds. I'm sitting in my chair. Finally, I took whatever I could of a shower. And after all that, I'm sitting in my chair. We get 10 phone calls. 10 from the hospital between both of our phones. They want me to come back because at 10 a.m. they found that there were blood clots in my lungs. You heard me right. So by 11 a.m., we are legitimately going back to the hospital. And this time, we have a bag. Or we don't have a bag. I'm sorry, that was not the time we had a bag. But that being said, we head back to the hospital. I call them. Now, I need you to understand that these pain meds were no joke. For people who purposely take them just to be unsober, wow, I couldn't do it. But in this case, I'm sitting in the ER on these pain pills. I've called them already, be like, hey, I'm here. I've told the people there I'm here, and nobody's doing anything about it. So, hour later, I call and I tell them again, and they're like, you're here? Yeah, I've been here for the last hour. Oh, okay. They come rushing out. Y'all, I spent 9 more days in the hospital. Okay, 9. They ran some tests, and about 6 p.m., they were going to put me in a room. And my mom took that opportunity because we hadn't eaten all day, and she was going to go get food. This woman comes to me and says, oh, do you need morphine? No, ma'am. And I just looked at her. I said, I just want food. She's going to get food. I was pitiful. I was freaking pitiful. So she didn't give it to me because I didn't need it. I wasn't in pain. So the next 9 days were spent in quite a blur of medicines, of blood tests, people taking my blood, of checking my blood pressure, IVs in 2 arms in some days. It was absolute torture. But when they did put me in a room, they didn't put me in the room that they were going to originally put me in. And I have to say that I am truly, truly certain I met an angel that night. Could it be the medicine that made me think that? 10-15% chance. But that night, they put me in the room. They put me in a section that I was supposed to be in a whole different room. Not to mention the woman who was the head nurse that night, or the one that we were dealing with. She was wearing an old time nursing outfit. she wasn't wearing scrubs like they do now. She was wearing the skirt and the white skirt, the white top with the hat. She was and she was standing close by to the mirror, and I could have sworn I saw a light emanating. Like, uh, I don't know how to explain it. Like, she wasn't from Earth, if you want me to be frank. She got us settled. She got us where we needed to be for the next 9 days. And so she was super sweet. And we were in a room number that it was um it was related to something. I forgot what the room number was now. But that night, I know my granny was with us. And my granny passed away years ago, unexpectedly. And well, the issue was unexpected. Her passing was not, unfortunately. But that being said, she was there in that room with me. It felt like I was there with her. After that next morning, I never saw that nurse again, and I never felt the same way I did that first night. And I was still on the same meds, guys. Like, I was still on all those medicines. So take that as you will. I spent 9 days in that hospital of poking, of prodding, of all of it. And in order for them to fix the issue of um the liquid building up and pouring out of my C-section scar, they had to go in and kind of open up a little bit. Torture, absolute torture. I just need you guys to know that. Torture. And it was absolute torture. They had to put a machine on there to deal with it, a wound vac. They had to take lots of blood. And for those of you wondering if I ever saw that phlebotomist who stuck a needle in my left index finger, I did. And I kicked her out of my room before she could even touch me. She denied. But y'all, I remembered her face, I remembered her accent, and I remembered all of it. And I told her so. And she tried to lie, and I said, "Get out." Probably the only time during my visit that I was ever not really a good patient, I swear. So I told the head nurse, I said, "Look, I kicked out this phlebotomist. This is why." And she just listened to me and never once got upset. She just went to note it. During this whole time, we found out I was allergic to some stuff and that I am not allowed to be left in a hospital all by myself. Or should I say, I won't be left in a hospital. I am not a person that can be left in a hospital. And I found that out because when they opened up the C-section scar where they did everything the week prior so that, more liquid could come out of it so we could get that healed, I was by myself. When my mother got back, I'm going to go ahead and just tell you guys, I wasn't allowed to be by myself after that. It wasn't happening. So, bless her, she made it work. Now, I would love to say that I was able to heal and go back to work and be just dandy. No, that's not how it worked. I had gone, to get the wound back checked, and they said it was going fine through the set of appointments. I had gone to the other doctor who checked me, and she declared, the angel, the woman who saved me, she declared that I needed 2 more weeks off work. Now, my job was not happy with this one bit. And instead of, working with me, they were going to let me go due to medical reasons. And I could come and pick my stuff up whenever I was ready. I looked at my mom. I looked at the phone, and I said, "Let's go today. I just want to get this over with." So we go to the house, get whatever I need to be able to take back to them, and I go and get my stuff. So I'd almost died. Well, let me start thinking. I got pregnant, almost died, and then lost my job. Right. So that's fantastic. Within about 2 months, that happened. No, I'm sorry, a month and a half. It would have been 2 more weeks, a month and a half. It was a month and a half within all that. Now, in that time, I was obviously depressed because I mean, who wouldn't be? I mean, just some of the things that I didn't realize that I took for granted. Being able to take a shower on my own, that was difficult when you need help to take a shower or you need help to do the things that you could do on your own. I couldn't imagine having to relearn all that. And for the people who have had to or deal with it on a more of a basis than I did, y'all are masters. Y'all are strong as can be. Like, God bless you guys. You got it going on to be able to get past that and have any kind of good happy feelings or even just be not negative. Like, good job. And I'm gonna fast forward to January where I was still sort of I had healed but I couldn't work. I was looking for jobs, couldn't find a job to save my life, literally. But literally couldn't find a job because that losing mine. Couldn't find a job. Started school to be a teacher, but I dropped that. Started a business with my ex and eventually in July found a job with the company I'm with now. Now, you're going to wonder why did we go so far in the future from all this? Because the fact of the matter is this. Everything happened for a reason. And the hardest part of it for me was the physical healing, if I'm being very honest. The emotional healing was hard, but just putting one foot behind the other was harder for me. I remember laying in the bed while everybody else was asleep and crying in agony because I had nerve pain in my leg. I couldn't lay on my side or my stomach. I had to obviously lay on my back. I couldn't sleep. And nobody else could feel this pain but me. So it was crazy. And it disrupted, in my opinion at that time, it disrupted my whole life. It tore the foundation of what my life was at that time. And then life went on, and I eventually learned some very important lessons. So I learned that life will happen. I couldn't blame anybody in the picture for this. I couldn't be mad at anybody because apparently this is just where the universe decided I would go. Because I know a lot of people do blame others, and I'm not upset at them. I don't blame them for being angry. I really don't. In my case, specifically though, I didn't blame anybody. I didn't look at anybody in anger for this happening. I knew there was a reason. And to be honest, I'm extremely lucky that the universe did it that way, unfortunately. Because at the end of the day, I was not prepared to be a mother. And that's not to say that I am a bad person or that I don't have a maternal instinct. It's just to say that I wasn't in that time prepared, or I was not going to be a good mom. And so that was one thing I learned. I also would never have been able to land in the company that I work for because I would have stuck with this. I had not been at my job 90 days when this all happened. So I was in the 90-day probation period. So it was an easy way to get rid of me, essentially. But this job I have now is well worth the wait. It's not really about the pay itself. It's not about what I do, even though I do enjoy it. It's about the people that you work with, and that you make friends, people who actually care about you, who will check on you if something is wrong, and that you can get along with, and that you actually care about these people. You don't pretend to care. You just don't go to work and go leave and they don't ever cross your mind again. I work with some awesome people and I have an amazing boss, and that's just facts. I would not have had this job otherwise. And as far as this happening, if I had been working, I would have never been able to start a business with my ex. Now, this being said, I am not a business person, or I didn't think I was. I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I could network and be someone who could run a business. And the fact is that I learned that I could be. And that was one of the hardest things to give myself grace for, because once we started this business, that's what we did. But I learned to network and I made friends in the small business community that I still have to this day. Wonderful, wonderful people who are super, super sweet and kind, but also have a I won't take crap from anybody instinct, because you can't be that way in a small business. You have to be stern, yet, what's the word? You have to be stern, yet kind. You have to be understanding and know your boundaries and know your worth. And that's what a lot of them do. And I'm super, super proud to call them my friends. And as far as friends go, if this hadn't happened, there's a good chance that I would not have met the people I call some of my best friends and been able to get closer to them after all of this, because that business allowed me to meet them. And because I met them, I got to know them. And as the years went on, we just got closer. So I can't be certain that I would have met them the same way. And I'm just extremely blessed in the people I can call my tribe nowadays. And to know that I can run a business, I can network, I can keep records, I can do all of it. And all because I had to go through a near death experience. And the fact is that it's not easy. You can have this optimistic view of why it happened. You can be understanding that it happened for this reason and this is where we went and this is why it happened. But the fact is, this is not going to change the fact that in the months that in July and August, I am a hot mess at unexpected times, and it's nobody's fault. I cannot blame a single soul, because the fact is that even though my medical anxiety has gone up astronomically high, and in the months of July and August, I am it's hard. for several years I couldn't hold a kid. I couldn't hardly look at a kid. And I don't mean like 6 years old, I mean a baby. And it's not that I even want one. It's not that I even dislike, I'm not a huge fan of kids, but it's one of those moments of you still think about it. Like in terms of I do sometimes think that I could have a 2-year old probably, but I'm very blessed that I don't, because I don't know how I would manage it right now. And I wouldn't be able to give them the best life possible. And it wouldn't be fair to them. But that being said, I do try and look on the positive side of it. But sometimes, for those of you who have anxiety, you can't. Sometimes you just start crying for no good reason. Absolutely no good reason. And then panic hits and anxiety altogether. And you either have a panic attack or an anxiety attack or some kind of attack, and you can't breathe, and you just freak out and you run out of your office. And yes, yes. And that being said, you figure out, how do I fix this? How do I find time to give my anxiety, which there's no words to even put in? I don't know about anybody else, but my body, my mind, it protects me by having me forget. And I say that because if you ask anybody else that was on the outside of this whole thing for me, with me, they would be able to tell you way more. Like when the doctor said I was circling the drain. And when I really I really believe that if she hadn't been as skilled as she was, I wouldn't be here today making this podcast. So the fact of the matter is that when that pain comes, there's no words. It's not like it's a set of necklaces that are all on a ball and you can untangle each one and they all come out on their own. Absolutely not. This is like a ball of yarn or a ball of, say, a ball of weed eater line that when you pull it tightens. You only make it worse. You just have to give it the time that it is demanding. There's no anger, there's no sadness. It's just pure, raw pain that has no words. And you just can't do anything but cry. And I'm really not trying to be dramatic. That's what it is, at least for me. There's no details to it. It's a blob. And I don't know if anybody else experiences that, but I've been told that this was way worse than I painted by a good number of people. And I'm not trying to paint this situation as less, just what I remember, because like I said, I was on a lot of medicines. I don't remember a lot of it, and in my head I can't dwell on the negative aspects of it, in the sense that I don't think I could function if I did. That's probably why my brain does what it does. The angel who saved me is still my OBGYN, and I see her at least once a year. And she is one of the best doctors I have ever had. And if not for this situation, I wouldn't have her as my doctor. Because she's skilled at what she does, y'all. Very skilled. But she's also kind, non-judgmental, and very understanding. She's still firm, don't get me wrong. There are a few things she wants me to work on, and you know what? She's right. I'm trying. But in the scheme of things, she knows very well how to have a bedside manner that keeps you comfortable in terms of having to do that yearly exam. And women, ladies, women, y'all know what I'm talking about. You have to have a really good bedside manner to make that not so weird. But that's just me. But At the end of the day, I'm just thankful that I'm here. That I'm here to tell you to share this story, to let people know you're not alone. Because even though logically I know that I'm not the only one who's ever gone through this, I wasn't the first, I won't be the last. Sometimes you do feel like you're alone. And even though in the beginning you could have someone tell you that you're okay, do the work in the beginning. Once you heal physically and you need to do that emotional healing, figure it out, please, for your sake. Because here I am 3 years later, and I still have to remind myself to give myself grace. Because the fact of the matter is that I sometimes don't. I simply don't know how sometimes. And I have to remember that I can give grace to everybody else in my life, just strangers. But I have to remember to give myself grace. And here's the thing, life continues no matter what. So take it, learn from it, and find your tribe. Find the things you're good at. Enjoy your life and do what you enjoy. Life is really too short to live it unhappily. And here's the thing, it's going to be scary at some points in time. Sometimes you may be too afraid to start over. You give 4 years to something and you decide that, well, I'm afraid of starting again. Do it. Start fresh. Do it. Because I can guarantee you, life is too short to be miserable. And I'll tell you this right now, when you find the peace away from whatever situation that is the most powerful thing you will ever feel. Because the fact of the matter is that life is hard enough. Why do we make it harder? Right? Why can't we just do what we need to do for ourselves, help others the best we can, and not overpromise things that we know we can't do? But that's just me. So, buttercups, I hope you understand that this is a one-time only episode, and I felt it was fitting to share with you, especially that the day that I drop my episodes would be the day that this happens. And I just want to remind you that there are people out there who definitely know what you're going through if you are experiencing anything of the norm of this, like, is what I mean. If you're experiencing this, find your people, okay? Talk it out and find someone who understands. Because the fact is that if you have to tell them 500 times the same thing to get over it, then do it. Because the thing is that it's going to seem crazy to some, but those who understand and watched you go through what you went through will understand it. They'll love you no matter what, and they'll do what they can for you. So, you got this. To whomever is out there suffering, I'm so sorry, and I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. Please, please, for your sake, just figure out how to give yourself grace. Buttercups, next week we're going to go back to what we've been doing. I appreciate you taking your time to listen, and I hope you have a spectacular week. See you next week. Buttercups, next week we're going to go back to what we've been doing. I appreciate you taking your time to listen, and I hope you have a spectacular week. See you next week.